So in my last video I talked about how much it costs to raise chickens, and I said coops can cost hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars, and it got me thinking, can I build a chicken coop for under $100?
This is our 3 chicken tractor. It's great for suburban and urban homes, as you could push the chickens around the yard and it keeps them from tearing up your yard, building up manure, and keeps them happy. I built a feed door at the top, easily accessed to give them treats and give them their food and water. An access door on the side to let them be able to free range your yard. A coop access door to clean out the coop. And of course an egg door on the back. It's a fairly simple build, so let's take a look to see how it's done. So the main cost of this build is going to be your lumber. So get your lumber free. Use pallets. There's a warehouse nearby our house that they have these heavy duty pallets that have inch thick pallet slats with 2 2x4s that are nailed together for structure. So I'm going to take my time here, make sure that I'm able to get these pallet slats apart and be able to get these 2x4s apart as well.
While breaking down these pallets, I remembered that you have to look to make sure that the pallets are going to be safe to use for, in our case, for chickens. There's codes that they print onto these pallets that indicate how they are treated. Others have dangerous chemicals in them, so you got to double check to make sure that you're getting the pallets that work for you. The ones that I get and I look for are the ones with printed HT, which is heat treated, which doesn't have any chemicals or anything that would harm myself or the chickens. So always check to make sure that the pallets that you pick up have these proper codes on them. What I do is I just drive a nail with the hammer, drive it through the board, flip it over, and then I'm easily able to remove those nails. This does take a lot of work, a lot of energy. The time that you spend on tearing down these pallets is going to save you hundreds of dollars in lumber. So before you start ripping these pieces, you need to make sure that every stray nail, screw, staple is removed, because you don't want to be cutting these boards and finding a nail with the blade. So this build does require us to rip these 2x4s in half. So what I do is I use a scrap piece of wood that I've marked the middle, line that up with the blade, and adjust the fence. It's not exact, but we don't need to be exact to the millimeter. We just need to be in the ballpark. What you'll need to do is raise the blade to about half of the width of the board and then give it one pass with that cut. And then flip the board over and then give it a second pass to cut all the way through. When you do this, you want to make sure that it's the same side of the board as running on that fence. That way the blade lines up each time. I use a program on my computer called SketchUp. It's wonderful. I make all my plans in this program. What I like about it is it has a cutoff list that gives you a list of all the pieces and how they fit on the board. What I love about it is it gives me the least amount of offcuts for each full-size board. So I utilize every scrap piece of wood that I have. In the description below, I have linked to plans that has the cutoff list, has the materials list, and everything else that you need to know to make this yourself. So the base of this build is made with pressure treated wood, and it's connected with 3-inch lag screws. This is because I plan on putting wheels on this coop, and I want to make sure that the structure, the foundation of this coop, is going to hold together as it's being pushed and pulled along the yard. Always pre-drill your holes. You don't want any blowouts or any of your pieces of wood to crack or splinter. You can easily use 2x4s here, but I'm using 2x6s just because it was something I had in my shop. This build requires a lot of pocket holes, and this pocket jig is wonderful. I use it for pretty much all my projects. Makes making pocket holes easy and simple, and the setup is easy and simple. Cleanup is easy and simple. It's a wonderful tool to have. After I drill a pocket hole in each board, I give it a light sanding, removes any of the rough spots, removes any dirt that might be built up, and just gets it ready for a stain or paint later on. So when you rip down the boards, they'll roughly measure 1.5 inches by 1 3/4 inches. When putting the pocket holes in, you want to make sure that it's on the side of 1 3/4 inches. So the chicken coop wall I'm building on my workbench, I have all the pocket holes pointed upwards. Makes it easier to just attach the boards. These small boards and simple screws, it makes it pretty flimsy, but as we add more to it, it will continue to get stronger until the end when it's the strongest. When I attach the walls to the base, I make sure that the pocket holes are facing inwards. This is just for aesthetics. I don't want to be able to see those pocket holes when I'm looking at the coop from the outside. I make the second wall the same as the first, attach it to the base, same as the first, and then I start running those beams across. This is adding structure, but it also adds a place for the floorboards to go. For the floor, you can use pallet slats like I'm doing here, or you can use plywood. It all depends on what you have. For the sides, you will need to notch out the parts that the walls are. So you'll need to measure, mark, and then cut with a jigsaw or a handsaw if you don't have a jigsaw. And then these floorboards are attached to the beams using brad nails. Here we're adding more structure to the chicken coop. This is primarily for the siding to have something to bite into. I tried to have at least 2 points of contact for the siding. So the next morning I found out that I didn't follow my plans, so I had to adjust this beam to the correct height. Still a little bit wobbly, but we're getting there. A roosting bar should go into the coop, and you can put it however way you want it. Here I am using a scrap piece that goes from one beam to the other. I have it 3 inches off the ground. This gives it enough to get off the ground, but also gives chickens enough head clearance in this small coop. So the siding of this coop is made with the pallet slats. I'm going to be cutting multiple boards to the same length, so I make a fence so that each board is cut at the same length. After they're cut, I adjust the blade to the pitch of the roof so that I can make beveled cuts into each of these boards. So I line up that blade to the edge of the board, adjust the fence, and now each of those boards will have the same beveled cut. Installing the siding is pretty easy. Here you would want to put a piece on each end and then run a twine along the top edge. That way you have a straight edge all the way across, and then just attach with brad nails. When you get to an end, if you have to have a small piece, cut a small piece. You don't want a small piece at the end, so you'd want to swap it out with a whole piece so that the small piece is on the inside and the whole piece is on the outside. The side of the coop is a little bit more difficult because of the pitch of the roof. So I am installing full boards here. And then when I get to the top, there's a peak of the roof, I then use a straight edge on the back end and I draw a line for that pitch. And then I use a jigsaw to be able to cut all those boards to the proper height and the proper pitch. If you don't have a jigsaw, you certainly can use a handsaw or a circular saw here. Once that's done, I use the offcuts to finish off the rest of the siding, and I do the same thing with the egg door roof. I put a straight edge, run that line, and then cut it with the jigsaw. The other side of the coop is a little bit more complex as it has an access door. So what I do here is I draw a line around the door frame measuring a 1/2 inch. And that line just lets me know that I can't go beyond that when I measure out my slats for the siding. Each slat I cut to that angled pitch first, and then I line up the bottom and around the door frame. Then I use a square and I transfer those lines onto the board, cut the boards, and they fit in perfectly. Each board needs to be measured and cut precisely. It's a little bit more time consuming than the other side, but it needs to be for for me to be able to measure out that door properly. Once I get beyond the door, then it's just easy going from here. I just continue to cut that angle first, and then line up the cuts, transfer it onto the board, and then make the cuts and attach the panel to the wall. The back of the coop, I just repeat the same steps that I used on the front. Make the fence, cut the cords, make the bevels. This time around I had a little helper, which made it a little bit more fun. I just repeat these steps and finished off the siding for the coop. For the run, I opted to use full 2x4 pieces just to give it a little bit more structure. When I was ripping down the pallets, I saw this 2x4 that was unique. It's something you won't find at the big box stores, but it looks like the outside of the tree, and I thought, let's put it on the chicken coop. On the 2x4s, you want to add 2 pocket holes. There's room for it. It just gives it a little bit more structure when you add 2 boards together. These smaller boards are not just for structure, they give the hardware cloth something to bite into. Next, we're going to build the doors. The chicken coop door is made with the same pallet slats as the siding. What I did was used a piece that had broken from when I was trying to salvage the pallets. I used that small piece on the back of the chicken coop door. I used exterior wood glue and smaller brads here to connect the chicken coop door together. After I've glued them, I put it under a 2x4 and some clamps to push it together so that it cures together into a strong singular piece. The feed door is a simple build. It's just connected at the joints with pocket holes. It does not need to be strong, and when we attach the hardware cloth, it will actually strengthen it a little bit more. For the ramp, I use scrap pieces, and I cut the pieces into equal sizes, and I just glued and nailed them to a scrap piece of the pallet slat. And then attaching it to the coop, I use a single board that I screwed into, and then I screwed that board into the base. And what that does is it keeps it off the ground, and while the chicken coop is being mobile and being pushed around or pulled, it's not going to drag or snag or break, and it's going to stay off the ground and still allow the chickens to have access to their coop. So at this point, you're ready to paint or stain. For me, I wanted to stain this a clear coat because I like the rustic look of the pallets. So you would want to paint the top, and then when you're done, you want to tip the whole thing onto its side. And this allows us to stain or paint the underside of it, but also allows us to install the hardware cloth. I use hardware cloth every time I make anything for my chickens. It's because hardware cloth is more secure than chicken wire. Chicken wire is only meant to keep your chickens in. It's not guaranteed to keep anything out. If you have any skunks, foxes, dogs, cats, anything can get into chicken wire. Here I'm using a scrap piece of wood to push that hardware cloth into the corner. You will also have to cut the hardware cloth to conform around the beams underneath the chicken coop. To attach the hardware cloth to the coop, you can use staples and a hammer. It's a little bit more time consuming and might be a little bit frustrating. The easiest way to do it is with staples and a nail gun. Once you're done attaching it, measure 12 inches from the top and then cut it in half. When you're done, measure 12 inches from the top and cut it in half. That full piece will then be used on the other side of the chicken run. You'll want to continue this process with the top of the chicken run and the two sides of the chicken run that won't have the access door. So this roof I'm making with the extra pieces of pallet slats that I had. You can use OSB for the chicken coop roof and the egg door roof, but I had these pallet slats and I decided to use them. So the drip edge needs to be put on first, and it's the two sides and the bottom that need to go on. After you get the drip edge, then you can start installing your asphalt shingles. This build does not require a full bag of shingles, and what I would suggest doing, and what I did, was I went on Facebook Marketplace, or you can check out the local listings, but go on there and look for individuals that have half bags or already open bags of shingles. There's lots out there, and you don't need to buy a full bag, and we actually bought this bag for $15. The top part of the drip edge goes on last, and the nails can be sealed with roof tar or roof silicone or any other roof sealant to cover those holes. So for the egg door, I decided to do OSB just to show you how it's done. I put scrap wood on here so that when I do nail it, it doesn't go through the OSB and into my workbench. So it's the same process as the chicken coop roof. The drip edges on the sides and the bottom, asphalt shingles. You don't put the drip edge on the top, as it will get in the way of the hinges. For this I use the longer hinges, that way it gives it a little bit more stability, holds that extra weight of the asphalt shingles in the roof. Again, after screwing these in, you will want to use tar, roof tar, or any roof sealant to cover those screws and to keep it waterproof. The access door to the chicken coop is installed a similar way. I do not use the screws that it comes with. I like to use the longer screws to bite into the structure of where I'm screwing it into. In this case, it's going to be the longer screws that screws into the chicken coop. And of course, always pre-drill your holes. That way you don't blow out any of the pallet slats or any of your wood this far into your build. It'll be a lot harder to replace these pieces if you have a blowout and you need to replace it. For this chicken coop, because of how heavy it is, you want to have 8-inch to 10-inch wheels that have 150 pound capacity minimum each. And I'm using 3-inch lag screws that are the same diameter of the bore of the wheel. I pre-drill the holes and then I drive in the lags with the wheels by hand. That way I don't damage the wheels or damage the wood, and it's snug enough to keep the wheels on, but not too snug that it doesn't turn the wheels. So let's talk about the cost. The cost for my lumber was $0 because I got all of it from the pallets. The pressure treated wood and OSB was from my shop, my scrap pile. But if you had to buy the pressure treated wood, it'd be $22.14. 3-inch lags cost me $7.12. The rest of the hardware, the screws, staples, nails, I had all that in my inventory, but if you had to buy it, I would guess that it would cost you about $8 for the amount that you would need. Hardware cloth was $31 for 25 feet. I only used 16 feet of it, so it's $19.50 for the hardware cloth. The drip edge was $15.50. The shingles I bought on Facebook Marketplace for $15. I used about half the bag, so that brought the total down to $7.50 for shingles. Door hardware was $15.72, and everything for the wheels was $19.52. So that brings the grand total to $115. You can certainly go cheaper. You can opt out and not get the hardware cloth and just go with chicken wire. It's not as secure as hardware cloth, but it is cheaper. And you can opt to not get asphalt shingles on your roof and just go with plywood. You'll have to paint it, stain it, and a little bit more upkeep to it, but it is an option. The whole purpose of this build is to keep it cheap and to get your chickens going and to keep them safe. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed this build, and I hope it inspired you to get out there and do something for yourself. Thanks for watching.